Yo, hey, it's SmallmouthCrush. Today's video is all about my favorite drop shot baits. So I'm going to break it down, my go-to drop shot box. It's coming up. It won't be too much longer, and we'll be chasing these monster smallies. I'm going to go through all the baits that I use to put some big fish in the boat. It's all coming up. Alright, it's no secret that I love to drop shot, and I drop shot a lot, whether it be for largemouth, smallmouth, you name it, I'm drop shotting. And a lot of the times, I'm specifically drop shotting for smallies. So today's video is all about the top baits that I use for smallmouth, non-Goby baits. Okay, I'm going to do another video when it comes to drop shotting with Goby imitators. Today's video is all about my little go-to soft plastic box here, and the baits that I have the most confidence in and use 80% of the time. So a lot of times when I go to a body of water that I'm familiar with, all I really need to bring is this box right here. I keep all my soft plastics for drop shotting that I have confidence in right here in this box. I keep them filled up. I can tell when I'm getting low, when I need to replace. And of course, if I'm going away for an event, and let's say, I have a bunch of crosstail shads in here, I'm going to have some extra bags in the vehicle waiting for me if I run out. If I'm if I'm away for a week or two fishing, I want to make sure I have a good backup of all these baits that I have confidence in. So if we break this down, they're really all what I would consider finesse style drop shot baits. And there's only a handful of different colors in here, as well as companies that I really rely on time and time again. So since I brought up the crosstail shad, we're going to talk about that. I carry 3 different colors in this box. I carry a smoke purple with me, a green pumpkin, and then IU color. If I had to choose between the top color of these 3 that I use the most, probably be the IU color. I feel that really resembles any type of forage such as perch, smaller perch. So when smallies are feeding on perch, this is one of my #1 go-to drop shot baits is a crosstail shad. And I mean, it's no secret, a lot of guys use these. I have confidence in them. I use them quite a bit. But there's certain times when, perhaps that smoke purple will come into play. And it really varies. It really depends on the region, the body of water that I'm on. If I'm on St. Clair, for instance, I'm probably going to throw this IU color the most. If I'm fishing a lake, say up in Wisconsin, where there's a lot of shad that they're feeding on, I'll use this smoke purple, and I find that very effective as well for me. All right, now there's also a couple different Kitech baits in this go-to box, specifically 2 of them. One's going to be their custom Leech. This is a really awesome finesse bait. I use this pretty much everywhere. Anytime I want a smaller profile bait, something real finessey, perhaps the bite's a little bit tough. And I shouldn't say that, even when the bite's amazing, they just crush this bait. It's a bait I've been using for the last year or 2 now, and has really put some really good fish in the boat for me. And the colors I have in this box are just your green pumpkin, and then I go with the straight, black, natural looking Leech. I'll throw the black probably the most out of these 2 colors. I also really like the Kitech Sexy Impact, and I'll have green pumpkin, and I'll have the IU color. Again, IU is going to be a strong color whenever there's perch around. And really, whenever you're around smallmouth, they just love that color. So I don't want to discourage you to throw it when you're fishing a body of water where perch really might not be the main forage. It does work when there's not perch in that body of water as well. But specifically, if there is perch and they're feeding on perch, that IU color, that Sexy Impact, is going to put them in the boat. All right, the next bait that I have in here are some old school baits. In fact, I haven't looked recently because I have so many big bags. I ordered these years ago in massive bulk bags that I have quite a few. But it's the Manson Stingray. It's really a stupid looking bait. It doesn't float. It's pretty, I've looked at this bait underwater in an aquarium on a drop shot, and I don't understand why these fish love it so much. But they do, and that's all that really matters sometimes. They love the Manson Stingray, and I carry it in two colors. I have what they call kind of an avocado color. So that's a greenish, puke green you could call it. And then I also have one just in a smoke color. And I'll drop shot these quite a bit. And I found that just really hardly working that bait at all. Just putting it, a 2-foot leader perhaps, casting it out in an area that you think holds fish, and just let the bait kind of sink to the bottom. Work that just a little bit of movement with the rod. Bring that bait up just a little bit. Let it fall back, let it glide back down, rest on the bottom, and oftentimes the smallmouth's going to come and pick that up. So these are kind of, I don't know if they still make them. I really don't. And if they do, they're hard to find. But if you can get your hands on some, I would definitely recommend trying them. All right, another soft plastic that I started drop shotting a lot with. Started using it last year, mid-season. My buddy Matt, actually, we were practicing together, and he started using these baits and started getting some really nice fish on them. And so, of course, I had to go out and buy a bunch of them, which I did, and they work. They work really well. I'm excited to continue to use this bait this coming season, but it's a Strike King half shell. Fairly new, maybe been around a year or two now. In the half shell colors that I have, I really like this KVD Kick. It's kind of that dark melon, that avocado, and then there's some different black and some gold fleck in there as well. And then I also, of course, have a standard green pumpkin color. Those baits seem to produce really well for me. I'm going to continue to use those. They are now in my go-to box, especially after last season and seeing the kind of damage that those baits can do. All right, we're getting down to the end here, but one of my go-to drop shot baits, especially if I'm fishing in a little bit of current, is going to be this Robo worm. But this isn't the standard Robo worm. This is the curly tail Robo worm, and I like them in, again, green pumpkin. I like a lot of the smoke purple is a really good color, and I really like the curly tail, especially when I'm working in current. I feel that it gives a little bit of action, and it just works real well. It's a great fish catching bait, especially in the rivers, especially if you got a lot of current moving through and you're fishing, a rocky area, and you're just casting up and letting that current bring that bait back down. That's going to be a really, really key bait for me. All right, the next two baits that are in this box is a standard 3-inch stick bait, a Cenko. But this isn't the real Cenko, the Gary Yamamoto Cenko. This is actually a generic one or a knockoff. And I use the 3-inch. I have them in black and, of course, green pumpkin. Those are my two main colors when I'm throwing this on a drop shot. And I only use a generic Cenko when I'm drop shotting for two reasons. One, you're normally implementing the action in that. I'm not too concerned about that fall rate. Now, if I was throwing a wacky rigged stick bait, I would definitely want it to be the Yamamoto brand, because it's the one I have the most confidence in. I like the fall rate. I like the action of it. With these generic Cenkos, now it's going to allow me to not, break the bank per se, because when you're catching 50, 60, 100 fish a day on these Cenkos, drop shotting, it can get pretty expensive if you're using a brand, a Yamamoto Cenko. So I do like the generic ones because I implement most of the action in that bait when I'm drop shotting. It's extremely effective. It works really well for sight fishing. So when you're seeing those cruising fish up shallow, you can pitch that 3-inch generic Cenko to them. And I get these by the hundreds in bulk, extremely cheap. I get them from a company called Wacky Worm. If I can find their link, I'll put it in the description below. But they're based out of Pennsylvania. And you can buy these like 100 count for maybe 10, 12 bucks. Don't quote me on the price, but it's pretty cheap. And so I just stock up on them because I go through so many. A normal 3-inch or a Gary Yamamoto Cenko 3-inch is going to work just as fine. But there's no need to pay that high price per pack, especially when you go through so many. Well, we made it through. Got one more left. One more left. And I wish I could tell you the brand of this and where you can find them. There's some different types on the market now that you might want to take a look at. I know Z-Man makes a Leech, but that's what it is. It's just a standard Leech. I've been using these, man, 2009, 2010, so a number of years. Very good bait. You can wacky rig it, you can nose hook this, you can do a number of things with this bait. And I have, again, I got hundreds of these in the garage, and so my stash is pretty well set for a number of years yet. If you were to try to find some of these, there is some companies that are starting to make some really good leeches out there as well. So once this runs out and I can't find any more, I'll have to go to those companies to replenish. All right, so that's it. That's my go-to box. The secret is out. These are awesome baits, guys. If you haven't used some of these baits that I've talked about in this video, I encourage you to try them out this year. You'll probably be pretty impressed. They work great. That's why I have them in this box. That's not to say that I don't use other baits. Of course I do when I drop shot. I use a lot of the Kitech 2.8s, 3.3s, things like that, you know, non-Goby imitating baits as well. Of course, Z-Man has a lot of great soft plastics out there I'm going to be using a lot this year as well. So I didn't cover the whole realm, you know, but for the most part, if I'm going to a lake, fishing a tournament, as long as I have this box with me, I'm feeling pretty confident that I'll be able to get on a pattern with these particular baits. Guys, if you dig this video, you want to learn a little bit more about drop shotting, I made a couple other videos in the past that I'll link in the description below. One of them is going to be all about my rod and reel setup, the line I use. You know, there's so much that goes into drop shotting. I even have a video just on the different types of weights and how I select different weights for certain situations and conditions that I face. So you might want to check those out. There's going to be some really good information in those videos. And then I have a lot of videos of me actually out on the water catching these big smallies on drop shots. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, guys, please subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram. I put a lot of cool stuff up there for you guys to check out. It's never ending. I appreciate the support. Leave any comments and likes below. Share this on social media. What else can I say? Until next time, we'll see you guys on the water.